Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we take a look at the Hazelburn 15, the 2023 edition. Along with my normal co-host Dustin, we got our good friend Keith from the Malted Man Cave, as you may have noticed.
He smelled spring bake and he came running.
They did the Palo Cortado before I got here, which I'm not pleased with.
He smelled us open the Palo Cortado, but it only lived 60 miles away. He was
I literally heard the door
I
kicked
smelled
open.
Isla,
Like we hadn't quite finished it yet, and he's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Oh, pause."
the Isle of Pete, Campbelltown. Let me make a correction.
I don't know what you're talking about, Keith, but we got whiskey for
They
you.
do use Isle of Pete though in spring bake.
Gotcha.
the quagmire of whiskey. All right, guys. We are once again taking a look at
more.
This. Both you do.
Thank you.
I'm getting sloppy. Once again, we've got the new spring banks for you here. This time the Hazelburn 15 Oloroso, or the Oloroso cask this time. Again, a 15-year-old. Same as last year. This one comes in at cask strength of
55 something.
0.8. 55.8. Forgive me, my eyesight's failing me. 9,000 bottles. Dustin, last year we were super impressed with the 15-year-old.
12-year was last
sorry.
year's, yeah.
And that was impressive.
The year before was the 15, which was incredible.
Have you guys had every iteration, including the first one, the 13 Oloroso?
I have not had.
Because I know you've had every one. I just wondered if you had that first one.
I had the first one. I didn't have the second one, which was the 2018. So I had the 17. I've had the 19, the 20. 20 they didn't do one. They did a anyway. We're gonna knock ourselves.
Reversed. All right. So the new one, 2023.
We haven't reviewed them all though.
No, we'll get there. Typical beautiful sherry, a little dirtier than last year.
It's sweeter than last year. It's actually very heavy, like up front, like this, like toffee, butterscotch kind of thing that I've never gotten on one of these before.
Almost Dr. Pepper in its delivery.
Normally, like the Hazelburn Olorosos, you get this kind of like sweet red fruit tricks, like almost red trick cereal, which I still get, but there's a little bit more of a deeper maple syrup or like butter, like maple syrup type note.
And the dryingness from the Oloroso sherry cask usually comes in pretty heavy on the nose. I mean, there's a hint at the end, but it's wetter, it's sweeter. I mean, just all across the board, this is a sweet bomb compared to the past ones.
Not only is it sweet, but it's deeper and redder than the last couple of years' releases.
Definitely getting that sticky raisin.
Oh yeah, it's bordering on purple.
Yeah, but again, like to your point though, it is so sweet that you would lean towards a PX at first nosing because something on this cask or something in this malt has gone super sweet for some reason.
Super sweet and super red.
Actually, I kind of wonder what the last 15, what the ABV was on that. I don't think it was this high. This is a pretty high ABV.
I agree with you, Dustin.
Because last year's the 12 was only like 49 something.
This is the deepest, richest nose that I've gotten on a Hazelburn Oloroso.
It is deeper, richer, sweeter. It's less, but again, not drier. That's the big difference.
I continue to believe that Springbank uses its A++ casks for this version of their whiskey. Especially the sherry versions, the sherry casks they have.
I think they're definitely trying to make this series their kind of flagship sherry whiskey, for sure.
And I've always described this note as clean. There is like a crystalline sugar cleanness to all these Hazelburns, which, I always kind of, I guess, gave it initial credit to being triple distilled, but...
how I always talk about like the sugar dough cookies with a lot of Springbank Hazelburn long rows. I almost get a little sugar dough cookie, but with like strawberry jam, like draped over top.
The redness,
so
there's a redness to this.
I was actually thinking in my head, it's buttercream, which again I've never really thought of instead of sugar cookies, and then almost like getting into like a slight bit of molasses coming in.
It's so like rich maple syrup, molasses, just something sticky, sweet, for sure.
You said maple syrup a couple times, and that's definitely keeps making me kind of. It's not a bad note. Molasses, maple syrup, somewhere in between the two.
That's a really good nose.
Yeah, not bad. I mean,
the first thing I just kind of come back to is like it's almost cloyingly sweet. I mean, too sweet. Like that's kind of where I'm kind of coming with this one. It's like, gosh, that's not what I'm expecting from the Hazelburn series.
At the very end, there's a slight floral nose, and dare I say it, the slightest bit of chocolate. I mean, definitely the strawberry, red fruits, Trix, cereal, that's all, and maple syrup, that's all stronger. But I get a tiny hint of chocolate at the very end, a little whiff, a little waft, if you will.
Sweet, sugar, Milk chocolate as soon as you swallow. Some type of like little bundt cake, but it's a strawberry bundt cake. There is some type of a strawberry jelly glaze to the end of this. It's a better palate than on the nose. And the nose wasn't bad.
Does something? This has a slight Macallan flavor on the palate, like
Like a little matchstick, maybe?
the Flint, the ginger that I get. You know, that's pretty characteristic of Macallan. I'm not. There's so many other things that aren't Macallan in here. They got the Hazelburn spring bake characteristics. Just that slight flinty note mixed with ginger, which I really get with obviously most Macallans.
Maple butterscotch on the finish here, and intense butterscotch. Really, the maple's like the initial sweet, but then butterscotch on the finish.
As soon as you said butterscotch, I was like,
And I've never gotten that on any of these Hazelburns.
Yep.
In fact, I compared this to the 12, which I thought was, in my mind, the sweetest that I'd had. And it came off dry, like almost like, I mean, I can't even explain how dry it was compared to this. This is wetter, oilier, sweeter.
This is the advantage of being Dustin's bottle. You know it took him a long time to get to that note. You know it took him 3 drinks to get to that note. But you're absolutely right, man. Yeah, butterscotch is
trust me, the
right.
butterscotch was actually the first note I got.
Come on.
No. Because I've had so many of these Hazelburns, like that note is so different.
On me. He was like, butterscotch, this, you missed this.
But
you're absolutely right.
You know, I actually hadn't thought about the strawberry notes that you guys kept bringing up, because to me that's just sort of like implied with Hazelburn. I'd kind of forgotten, oh yeah, that's probably a really good way to describe it. Same with the jam note you brought in, but for me it was like that butterscotch, and then Keith brought in the maple syrup, which I'm like, yeah.
It almost tastes like it's more towards the end of the palate, and I'm probably skipping ahead a little to the finish, but it's almost. You guys ever had tea and honey? Do you ever drink tea and honey?
Sure.
Like the very end, it's like almost like a black tea and maple syrup. After you get all the strawberry jams, the Trix cereal, red fruits, butterscotch cream, all the sugar dough cookies. It's good stuff, man. I like this.
Yeah. You know, now that I've said that a couple times, but I make like a kind of like a protein shake,
like you were saying,
where I use like strawberries,
a little river of it,
a little bit of chocolate, protein powder, a couple other things. And one of the things somebody told me was, hey, try adding maple syrup on the finish, like to top it. And so I've done that a couple times. It's definitely giving me some of those notes.
Yeah, girl, you undersold this when you had it before.
Well, I mean, we'll get kind of there, but I mean, to me, I don't know that I like how sweet this is.
You only had a neck pour too, right?
I had 2 little neck pours, yeah. I mean, so I haven't been back to this in 2 weeks. So it is drinking a little different than last time I had it. So, and that was kind of part of the thing was I wasn't initially, when I first cracked it, not impressed. But again, I have such high standards for these Hazelburns that, we're not talking about a normal unimpressed.
We're talking about why isn't this a 91?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah. I like a little bit more cask maturation influence than I think you guys do. Like, I love me a good first fill, just drenched in sherry whiskey. As long as you can still taste the distillery characteristics.
I like it as long as it's not oaky.
Yeah, I don't like it when it completely masks the distillery characteristics, but I do like it if it's a good cask. I just
don't like it when it's
some wet sherry goodness.
I just don't like Signatory and Signatory's casks, to be honest. That's my biggest thing. Edgedour and Signatory.
You've had some good casks, but you're right. Sometimes you get some duds.
I generally don't like them first fill. I like them when they're refilled much more because they're usually just they bring in too much oak. Hazelburn's never done that. They've never been over oaked. The closest was the 14 year. That's the one that is a little cloyingly oaky.
I have a little Freud 16 in there, signatory, that'll make him change everything you just said about that.
I don't think it's first fill, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? That one's beautiful.
There was one Mortlock that he gushed over that was like Tootsie Rolls, like that you loved.
That one was good.
I tell you what, with water, this isn't adding a whole lot different. But, I mean, still, it's such a solid whiskey.
Yeah. But
you said you probably wouldn't buy a second one of these.
How much was it?
I paid $175. I don't know if...
I pay $175.
Let me put it this way. I don't think if we buy another one, it's going to cost that.
Right. I want to pay more. $170 I'd pay for. Anything higher, no.
Because the store I got this at, it's a store that sells these cheaper party source that I would probably have to get another one at. I've got a feeling they're going to ask more.
Man, a nice little wisp of smoke is coming up now with water.
Yeah, Hazelburn, it does trick you. Even though it doesn't have any peat, supposedly, it definitely has all those like salty, salinity, maritime characteristics that trick you into thinking it's peat.
It's almost like a smokeless cigarette, if that makes any sense. You know, like a non-alcoholic beer. It's almost like a smokeless cigarette.
Well, especially these Oloroso casks, because to what we were talking about earlier, is these generally aren't super oaky, although this one's probably the least oaky of any that we've had, which also kind of it gives me the least age of any of the ones we've had. But it does, because like that Spanish, sherry oak absolutely 100% gives a little bit of a smoke note. Any whiskey.
All right, boys. Whiskey score time. Allow me to go first, since I'm in the middle, and that'd be easy for everyone to track when you go middle, left, right. Or middle, right, left. Everyone loves that.
It's like the Olympic podium, I guess, for Mike.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to... This
Are
continues...
you the gold, Mike?
I am the gold.
He's in the middle, yeah.
So I continue to be impressed with these releases lately. Last three years especially.
Mike, Keith, we got to squat down here a little bit.
You don't have to squat. Keith does. You know. You can stay right where you
I got to be noticeably smaller, not just an inch or two. I can be like 3 inches.
He's getting cute with it, but he's trying to know his territory. Anyway, I digress. Dustin. I'm at a 90 on this one, Dustin. I'm 88, 90. I'm kind of bouncing forth between those two numbers. But this continues to be just an extremely, extremely well-done whiskey in the last 3 years. Whether it's 12 or 15, they offer different things. There's nothing that's off-putting. Handled water well. Nice viscosity. Once again, a winner.
Yeah. Did you go, Keith?
Am I wrong?
I think I'm a 90 as well. I could be pushed into a 91, maybe even a 92 on enjoyment rating, just because I love the strong, heavy sherry influence, and obviously everything that Springbank does is just typically liquid gold. Have we ever had like a really bad spring? I'm trying to think.
The 10s.
I've had 110 I didn't
Some
like.
15s.
I mean, but even the 10, if you compare the 10 to like any other 10-year-old whiskey
Unfortunately,
on the market,
Keith,
it's still going to kill those 10s.
I brought him like the worst Springbank 10 I've ever
did.
had for like one review we did.
You did. There are some good ones out there.
Yeah, usually they're better.
Well, when we're drinking Port Ellen before here,
look.
Bowmore 22,
Look.
like Lagavulin 25.
I've had 5 different Springbank 25s. I've got the gist. Dustin, where are you at as far as the whiskey score, man?
Yeah, so I'm going to go... I'm really teetering between the 89 and 90.
I knew he was going to be dissonant and go.
But I'm going to go with the 90.
Oh, no, I'm wrong.
No, I'd already locked in a 90 before
Triple
Mike
sevens.
went. The thing is, this has improved since I first had it. When I first cracked this thing, it was so much sweeter than it is now even that it really threw me off. I actually now would buy another bottle if I can find it. So I'm going to make a little... call a few people.
I love that maple syrup note with all the red jammy fruit notes. And
That said, this is a very low. This is probably still my least favorite of these because I do actually really appreciate a little bit more dryness on the finish that they've gotten with the other bottlings they've done, because they've kind of somehow lost some of that Spanish oak note. And I don't know that I really like how much sweetness is in here because I am losing the Hazelburn a little bit more than usual. But it's still just so good. Like
that, I know we don't typically always talk that much about the finish. That finish lasts forever. I can still taste maple syrup, black tea, strawberry jam, little chocolate.
Yeah, and I've said this before. This
Still,
to me, when I
can
first
taste
cracked it, and it's still today, this is the most intense and most flavorful of the 15s, or any of the Hazelburn Oloroso, sorry. But, I do think the other ones were a little bit better balanced. They hit on notes I like better. So, like I've told a few people, if this is the one you miss out on, you can't get it, I don't know this one you're going to regret. That said, if you can get a hold of one of these, you absolutely should.
All right, so anyway, those are our thoughts on this particular whiskey. If you guys had a chance to try one of these, let us know what you guys think. And Dustin, until next time, what do you wish the folks?
Happy fresh sherry drinking.
We'll see you then.